Hello there and welcome back to another edition of Silly Car Showdown. Today, now we are taking a look at the Ford Mustang 2+2 Fastback. This car was requested by RKD and it was a car when added to Horizon 4 I didn't really think much of. And then I drove it and tested it out a few bits and I actually ended up really liking this car. It's a very adaptable platform. There's quite a lot of stuff you can do to this car. Judging by the paint job, I bet you can't tell what we're doing today. Yes, it is going to take on the Silly Car Showdown course, and well, it has a plethora of good engines we could use. There's actually a hell of a lot of engine swaps for this thing. You have the choice of a 2.6 litre inline-six twin-turbo from a Nissan Skyline. Yeah. A 5.2 litre V8 from a GT350R, an 8.4 litre V10 from a Dodge Viper, a 7 litre V8 from a Ford GT40, which is an interesting engine, a 6.5 litre V12, and the racing 7.2 litre V8. Of course, though, we are going to go for the Skyline engine. Piss off purists, and also because it is a reference to one of my all-time favourite films, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, which is a really excellent film I do recommend. And they even contain all of the little body mods, so you can convert this into that car, which I find really cool. And of course the usual collection of Forza muscle car bonnets, which I don't particularly want to use. Anyways, this being a muscle car does mean, of course, it should come with some decent tyres. 275s on front, which is very good for a muscle car, and 345s on rear. Yeah, those are very big, meaty tyres, and I'm very thankful for those big, meaty tyres. Apologies there. Right. The all-important drivetrain stuff for a muscle car, of course, we are definitely going to want the gearbox. I believe this thing probably has a 4-speed standard, so yeah, I don't want that. Also, I know this thing looks a bit ridiculous on its stock wheels, but of course, in accordance with the rules of this series, I do not change wheels, so it is going to have to sit on those wheels that do look a bit dowdy, but that is the way it's got to be. Right, and the weight reduction, which is going to dump a decent amount of weight out. Right, time to start building some power. The PI should climb quite nicely with this because it's not a particularly heavy car, and also it's pretty lackluster on its power front currently. S1 815, 820, 829, pistons for 834, twin turbochargers, which we are going to want, intercooler, which is going to give us a little bit of power, and the oil and cooling, and finally wrapping up at S1 858. So we end up with 796 horsepower, 602 foot-pound torque, 2,909 pounds of weight. Not the most impressive car, statistically, but a zift 60 of 3 seconds is actually very good for a rear-wheel drive car. 216.4 mph top speed as well. Yeah, there are definitely more powerful engines you can put in this. You can probably put the V12 in this and make this an S2 class car if you want, but as I said before, that's kind of the beauty of this 2+2 Mustang. There is so much versatility in the way you can upgrade this thing, and that's why I really do like it. And of course, having the Skyline swap does make me very happy indeed. But how will our Mustang RB26 get on when it goes to the Edinburgh course? There's only one way to find out, and well, that's by actually heading there. So here we are at our Edinburgh course, ready to take on 5 laps with our RB26 powered Ford Mustang. Our current leader is the Ferrari FXXK, which had a time of a 134.196. The Ford Mustang is unlikely to get up there. In terms of where this car could go, with that tyre size, I'm expecting good things from this car. So I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say 147 is where this car is going to go. I can actually see this car being sort of a repeat of a car which I drove earlier in the day. The Nissan 240SX, or whatever I end up calling it by the time the video goes out. I'm trying to look for it on the leaderboard as I drive, which is not a sensible idea. I can't actually remember where that... Oh, there we go. It's in 22nd place. The Nissan 4-Rotor SX is what I've written it as. I might come up with a better name by the time that video goes out. Probably not. Anyways, yeah. I'm expecting that car to get... or this car to go somewhere around there. 147.5. Ignore the fact that I'm smashing into everything because I'm trying to read while driving, which I don't recommend. Also, this car hasn't got attack, which is interesting. Yeah, it does feel kind of like a car of that vein, actually. Just sort of driving it at the moment, it feels like a very grippy car, if not a particularly quick one when it comes to its straight line speed. It's definitely got the edge on the Nissan in terms of overall power, though. This having sort of closer to... Well, how much power did this have? 800, was it? Nearest makes no difference. How much boost are we making? £30. Okay, so we're making a good amount of boost. You'd actually expect this engine to get a little bit more power. If I remember rightly, most tuner Skylines run somewhere around 800 to 900. Unfortunately, it usually goes a bit more optimistic on its engine performance, but there you go. That first lap, not particularly great, but then again, I was smashing into stuff while trying to read, so there you go. This does feel very grippy indeed. The funny thing is, this car is sort of tied with the Metro of having the biggest tyres we've seen all day. So, yeah, there's sort of one of the lesser powerful cars has the biggest tyres of the day. Where were these tyres when I was driving the Willis Jeep is what I want to know, but there you go. As is the way of life sometimes. Or actually, from that point, the Audi, I mean, 275s on the front is exactly the same as we had on that Audi. And that Audi was not, you know, that definitely could have done with some bigger tyres as well, so, yeah, it's kind of interesting how it all loops back. Of course, the issue sort of with running tyres that size on a car like this is it will impact the straight line speed a little bit, because they do add quite a bit of weight tyres, and also aerodynamics wise. Granted, the staggered wheel setup with the fronts being smaller than the rears do give it an advantage, in the sense that air should be able to pass over it a little bit better, give it a little bit more straight line speed, better acceleration, blah, ask boost and ethanol for more tips on how tyres affect performance. But the long and the short of it is essentially this bigger rear tyres on the back of this car. Maybe it doesn't quite need that bigger tyres. Maybe it could get away with something like 305s and have a little bit more straight line speed. But this is the Silly Car Showdown, and I think it's pretty silly, slash excellent, that a car like this can run such a rear tyre setup. A 1:47.983 is the time on its first ever flying lap. Yeah, pretty much going exactly where I suggested it would. It is a really nice car to drive, there is no doubt about that. I love these tyres. Just, you can put your foot down and just, it does not care. Even this being a twin-turbo car that revs up to 9 grand, you know, you'd expect it to have some issues with when those turbos kick into full force, but it really doesn't. It's just nice and easy and lovely and wonderful, and not the quickest thing in a straight line, certainly, definitely not, but it's very good. It's very, very good indeed. If we can get turned into there, that'd be nice. There we go. I do really like the Mustang. I think it drives really very excellently. Not really much more to say about it. Again, I would really like some more straight line speed. I would like more power, if I'm being perfectly honest. This is one of those cars where I feel like I'd kind of like to rerun it, as much as I love the Skyline engine. And this is definitely the correct swap for this car. This is what should be in it. Kappa. This is a car which I would like to run quite a few times with different engines to see sort of what it can do. You know, sticking 345 tyres, this thing could probably run 1,000 horsepower and not really have all that many issues with it. You know, maybe even up to like 1,200 horsepower. I'd be curious to see sort of what power you can get out of that GT40 engine. I think, if I remember rightly, it can get somewhere in the 900 plus ballpark, maybe up towards 1,000. So that could be interesting. Likewise, you know, maybe you could go all out, stick 1,500 horsepower in this and see what it does. It would definitely be quicker than the Pacer, there's no doubting that. Probably, well, definitely quicker than the Limo as well. At that time wasn't any quicker, there was a few missteps when it came to that lap. Yeah, it drives very nicely, there is no doubting that. Just not particularly quick when it drives like that. It's quick around, don't get me wrong, like, in terms of its actual overall time, 1:47s are impressive to say the least. Of course, especially when you think back historically on this series. I remember when the top car for a while, it looked pretty unbeatable, was that GT40, which ran a 146.039. You know, since then we've had so many cars come along and, well, put that car in its place. It now, the GT40, fun fact to you, is was the first, you know, real true challenge car at the top of our leaderboard, and that car is currently sat in 18th place. So yeah, we've definitely had quite a few quicker cars since then, and of course I've gotten better at the track since then, so it is quite fascinating to sort of see how this series has come along and done what it's done. But yeah, this car is nice to drive. I will say, sort of low speed agility is not this car's strong suit. Coming through that section there, you can really sort of the switchblade. You can feel the fact that this is a bit of a heavy car and it's running the tyres that maybe are a bit too big for a section like that. You know, again, I will never complain about a car having bigger tyres, but what I will say is, you know, sometimes they do affect agility. Sometimes it is, there's a reason WRC cars run small tyres. You know, it's because they can get away with it, and also on dirt it's quite useful to have a smaller tyre compound. I don't know if that actually translates into Horizon 4, or even that what it's got to do with what I was just speaking about, but there you go. Something to note, I guess. Anyways, final lap, let's see what we can do with the Mustang. I would like to get this thing a bit quicker. It definitely feels like it could be quicker. It's just a case of, it's just so damn nice to drive. And yeah, it's please don't crash into there. There we go. I really don't want to take out those benches. It is a bit understeery through certain bits though. Sort of, especially under braking, it can be sort of off power understeer. Definitely seems to be a thing in this. In terms of straight line speed, I mean, you can see through there, 140 miles per hour is the top whack. It hasn't got a hope in hell of breaking any speed records, this Mustang, but in terms of one of the nicest cars we've ever had to drive, sure, definitely. It's right up there with some of my personal favourites that I've driven. Really just excellent, solid all-rounder. Ooh, we are better through Switchblade. We are much better through Switchblade. So hopefully this can be the time to end all times. Dun dun dun! Brake at the bin. Oh, come on, get on the brakes, please. No. Ah, you twat. I knew I was going to mess that up last second. Oh, cock and bollocks. I don't think, to be fair, that would have gone any quicker, actually, by the looks of it. Yeah, I'd say it's a bit disappointing, but not really. It still did very, very well indeed. One of the nicest cars we've had to drive for a while, certainly right up my alley. I would kind of like more straight line speed, though. You know, at the end of the day, as much as I am a man who prioritises handling over everything, you know, a good handling car is something I prefer. I'd rather drive this than, say, the Willis Jeep on a regular basis. You do need straight line speed to tackle a course like this, and the Mustang, while it's, you know, it's a very nice handling car, it just has not got the speed to compete around a course like this, which is a little bit of a shame. But, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. I've said that quite a bit today. Anyways, a 147.983 will put this car into 24th place. It goes in between the ludicrous limo, which it is only a fraction of a second off, and the Porsche Cayman GTS. It is 0.6 seconds quicker than the Nova, a little bit up on the delightful Datsun, 0.5 seconds down on the 240SX and the V10 Carlton. Yeah, a good time, don't get me wrong. Maybe not quite as impressive as we was expecting, but, you know, it is just an excellent car to drive. It's just so slow in a straight line that it really does suffer, but it is a car I would genuinely kind of like to run again, so if anyone's interested in that, feel free to request it. Speaking of requesting cars, you can request any car you want down below in the comment section. Alternatively, if you go into the description on my channel, you can join my Discord server and request the cars in the request chat on that server, which is a much easier thing for me to do, in terms of cataloguing and stuff, but the comment section is perfectly fine. If you're watching this on HD Central, if you go into the description on there, you'll see a link to my channel, which you can click on to watch some subpar content. And if that interests you, then there you go. There's your bag. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.